Well, hello and welcome to the Manage Stage joint kickoff recording. You're going to see access, import, and optimize plans for 13.12. So without further delay, Melissa, why don't you tell us what Access is working on?
Thanks, Harris. So this milestone, most of our capacity is going to be dedicated to performance and security. Let me go ahead and share my screen so you can follow along. So most of our capacity, like I said, is going to be spent on performance, specifically the linear queries work that we've been working on, continuing that, and hopefully enabling it for all of GitLab.com. And again, that's to reduce complexity of the way namespaces are looked up, where instead of being recursive queries, we're re-architecting them to be linear queries. So less expensive, less complicated. So that work is continuing along with a couple of other work streams. But we are working on one feature, which is for new SAML setups. When SAML is set up for GitLab.com groups, by default, enabling and also presenting a warning that disabling SAML enforcement could be a security risk. This issue came about because when looking at analytics about people who have SAML enabled, more than half of them aren't enforcing it. And I believe that that is not intentional, that people simply don't really understand the difference between setting up SAML and enforcing SAML. So moving forward, we're gonna enable it, like I said, enforce it whenever it's enabled, and keep an eye on metrics to see if people switch it back, or if now we see more people enforcing it. Because we believe that's the intended behavior if you're going through the whole process to set up SAML. And that's it for Access. You're
Cool.
muted.
So how obvious is it for users to see that it is now enabled by default, and also how to disable it?
So let me share my screen again. In this issue, you can see this is what it looks like. And I'll show you in one of my test groups in case you want to see. But it's within settings, SAML SSO. There's different toggles. This is to enable it, basically to allow you to sign in through SAML, and this is so that you can only sign in through SAML. So it's two different checkboxes, but it's fairly set it and forget it. So I don't think people are going back here every day. And by default, this is off today. And I don't believe it's very clear right now what the difference is between enabling and enforcing it, which is what we're trying to do also, just clean up the language.
Well, you're getting something done in addition to just performance, right?
Yeah.
So I can go next, and I will share my screen to allow everybody to follow along. So if you remember, if you really have good memory and remember what I talked about a month ago, this particular feature here is going to look almost the same as a month ago. We have not moved this much for a couple of reasons. One is we worked on some of the bugs, performance, and technical debt issues in the previous milestone instead of continuing on the feature, because that was something that was deemed important. And we also had a spike that we had to do in order to unblock these last three. The performance of, so the framework that we've set up was not as performant as we wanted to be, and we didn't want to leave the technical debt behind. So we kind of took time to go back, find a better way, better path forward, and hopefully we'll be able in 13.12 to make some progress against these last couple of pieces that are required for epics to be able to be migrated. In addition to that, we still have an important performance issue to work on. And currently, to do imports, especially when it's a bigger file, it is error prone when you try to upload those files from your computer. So we wanted to allow people to use object storage or external storage and just kind of point the import in that direction, and then kind of allow the backend processes to pull the file across to be imported from an import storage. This is something that, typically when there's an issue with a larger file, support info dev people get involved, and it's a drain on resources to do that. So this will help with the bandwidth of the group if we did that. So we're going to spend some time doing that and hopefully complete the spike and be able to proceed with our direction feature issue. So what's the focus after the epics migration work, you ask?
It's been such a huge chunk of work for you. I'm curious to see what you decide to work on next.
That's a good point. It's been a while since I've sort of shared the larger picture there. So really the larger picture is this parent epic to the epic migration, which is a group migration. So what we're doing is we're migrating the entire group. Epics being kind of the most complex thing that we had to migrate within the group. But in addition to that, we need to migrate milestones, iterations, labels, boards, badges, all kinds of things. So if you look at this list here, these are all the things that we need to move. Some of these have been closed, like the milestones and the labels and the badges are already being migrated. We're currently doing, kind of still working on the epic. But past that, we have a few things to wrap up. One of them being boards, because it's also one of those complex kind of a multi-level objects that we will use the new software solution, this new engineering solution to migrate. And to kind of wrap it all up, we will provide an API for our customers to be able to automate this process. Once that's completed, we will have achieved the parity with the currently existing, like the old group export import, which means that we will be able to sunset the group export import, as the group migration will now have everything that the old feature did. So that's the next steps. Will be really just wrapping that up and being able to finalize the completion of the group migration. Once that's completed, there's an even bigger strategy here. So once we have the parity with the group export import, we will move on to adding users to the groups, which is something that we never had. So it's not part of the parity with the old. It's actually new and exciting. Migrating users from one instance to another that belong to a group it was something that we didn't do before. What we did was we would require you to have all the same users in the destination, and then we would kind of match between the users. So we would match the owners of an epic. If the user had the same, user with the same email in the source and destination would become the owner of an epic being migrated, for example. But we wouldn't really migrate the users. Here, we're going to look to actually move the users across to the new instance and then proceed with projects. That's going to be the final big chunk, is just getting the projects also to migrate. So all the projects that belong to a group and the subgroups of the group. Once that's completed, we will have a comprehensive GitLab migration tool that is going to be hopefully less error prone and faster and easier to use. And it's going to enable a lot of our customers to self-migrate, because currently it is costly and it takes time to engage our professional services group for these large migrations. This should enable customers to migrate themselves without having to either script a lot of things or involve professional services. So that is the feature. Thank you for asking. This is just an awesome question.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see. Yeah, it's really exciting to see where you're going with it and see the bigger picture.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, good job on laying out all your epics and everything.
Exactly.
Wow,
it's amazing.
Clean up all my stuff. But I think users migration is awesome because now you can start directly attributing seeds to import, which is going to be a huge thing for the group.
It could be definitely, it would be performance indicator for us is to sort of count how many people we have imported, not just how many imports we've kicked off. But we could kick off one import that adds 10,000 seats versus 10 imports that add 10 seats each, and it's not the same thing. So be able to measure how many users we're importing could be a new performance indicator for our group. Cool. So since there's no more questions, thank you for listening, and I will now let Larissa tell us about what Optimize is planning in 13.12.
Thank you, Harris. So I'm going to go over what we're working on for our two main categories that we're focused on these days, which are DevOps adoption and value stream analytics. For DevOps adoption, we got the adoption table into the group in 13.11, which is really exciting. But prior to that, it was just an instance level feature. So now you can go to any group and add the subgroups in that group and see which features have been adopted. We still have a limited set of features that show in that table, starting from the issues column, MRs, and so on. We're going to be adding additional features in 13.12, and we have prioritized SAST adoption, DAST, code owners, and dependency scanning are the next four we're going to add. And as we continue to add these features, it's going to get very crowded in this table. So we are going to be separating it out, and the separation we've decided to go with for now is DevSecOps, which you can see right here in this prototype. We're going to break it out into Dev, Sec, and Ops tabs, and then you can see the features within each of those groupings. For value stream analytics, this is really exciting. Value stream analytics is starting to really take shape and get a lot of enhancements, and it's looking quite different to how it did a few months ago. We have finished the back-end work to be able to sort the issues that you see within a stage. So we're going to be doing the front-end work to do that sorting, and we're also going to wrap up the front-end work for pagination. So before, when you went into a stage in value stream analytics, you would only see, I think it's 20 issues or MRs listed out. Now, soon we'll have pagination and the ability to sort, so that you can sort by time and see which issues or MRs have been taking the most amount of time. And then we've been working on, so the project level value stream analytics looks like this. It's quite different to how the group UI is looking. And we've been doing some work to align the project UI with the group UI. The next things we'll be doing for this are changing to the horizontal navigation. So this vertical navigation here will go away, and we'll be adding this horizontal navigation at the project level. And we recently added an overview view that just gives you some charts instead of listing out issues and MRs. And we're going to be adding that overview into the project level as well. And then the next thing is we've had quite a few requests for being able to see how many issues or MRs we use to calculate the stage time. Pagination and expanding the number of issues that you'll see in this view will help with that, but it's still not all that intuitive. So next to issues, we're going to be adding a counter to show how many issues were in that stage. And then we recently added this little popover that shows more information about the stage, like what is the start event and what is the stop event for that stage. And we're going to be adding the counter in there as well. And then finally, we will start work. will probably take a number of milestones, but we will start work on a work in progress view. Today, when you look at a stage, it is only listing out the issues that have reached the end event, not any issues that are still in progress in that stage. And so we're going to add a work in progress view, which is a view that you would look at if you want to take action. So items that are still pending in this stage, they haven't reached the close event, and you want to go and figure out why they're taking so long or take action on them. And Harris, you have some comments here.
Yeah, so for the DevOps adoption view, how did you pick which features to show? It feels like you were trying to kind of represent the different stages. Oh, yeah. So will there be just like representative features for each one of the areas, or will you just have all the features there at some point?
We won't do all the features because there are so many of them. The way that we did this was a combination of things. We went around to each product manager and asked for their input on what they thought were the key features for their stage that showed DevOps maturity and were indicators of how successful a customer might be in that stage. And we also got feedback from customers on what they'd like to see in the table. And then I put together a spreadsheet, and based on the number of requests for each feature, I just sorted by the maximum requests, and that's the priority order in which we're doing them.
Interesting. That's pretty cool, because you just show a few things that kind of give you a good overview of your adoption. It's really awesome.
Yeah, we have a list of about probably 30 features that we ultimately will add.
Oh, cool. So my other comment was about, I'm really excited about this, to see any kind of, sort pagination, rich interactions. So when you mentioned the sort and pagination of the value stream analytics, I'm really excited about that. And I'm wondering if it's being done in a way that kind of ends up being a part of a component in kind of the UI toolkit, and therefore be able to be reused easily, or maybe become something that just comes for free next time somebody builds a table?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. I'd have to look in the issue and see how they're going about implementing it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's something that I always kind of look for and look into. And when we build things, I'm like, well, maybe other people want to be able to use this.
Yeah, I remember we talked about the pagination last kickoff, and I know that your team had implemented some pagination, and we had a conversation in one of the issues, and I think Nick chimed in on that. So I will dig up that comment and paste it into our agenda sheet.
Cool. Well, let's stay in touch, all of us, to just make sure that we don't duplicate and triplicate our jobs and then reinvent the wheel every time. So
yeah,
I'll do my part as well, as much as I can. So Melissa, you had a question?
Yeah, it's a comment. I'm excited for this action-oriented view. I think that's a really smart direction to take this in, because that's the next level, right, of kind of catching things in real time as they're becoming problems rather than looking retrospectively. So I'm excited to see that, and I think a lot of people will like that.
Yeah, that's a huge focus for where we want to take value stream analytics, because it is, like you say, one thing to look retrospectively and see that you've made adjustments over time to remove bottlenecks and look at historic data, but then to actually take real-time action is a huge value, I think.
Cool. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
If there's no additional questions, I think this may be it for the managed stage for 1312. Thanks for participating. Thanks to everybody who's watching this. Take care.